Just one bite! Just one bite! The housekeeper pleaded, but the 4-year-old twins sat frozen, refusing to eat anything ever since their mother perished in the catastrophic accident that turned the Malibu mansion into a bleak prison. Julian Harrington, a single-father millionaire in Malibu, tormented himself as a failed dad, his Silicon Valley startup devouring every hope of healing his pain, mirroring yours as you struggle between career ambitions and a shattered family. Then Avery, a waitress from Los Angeles, walked in with a wild idea: turn mealtime into a magical dance performance. That single act upended everything. Don't miss it, or you'll regret skipping this profoundly healing tale and its unexpected love. In the vast kitchen of the Harrington Mansion in Malibu, the air lay heavy like the morning mist over California, where the pain of loss still lurked in every shadow. The housekeeper, her apron streaked with ground oatmeal, pleaded earnestly with the 4-year-old twin girls Lily and Nora, who sat motionless like tiny stone statues, arms crossed over their chests, eyes shut tight, ready for a silent toddler rebellion. They hadn't swallowed a single bite since yesterday. The grief of their mother's tragic accident had turned every meal into an emotional battlefield, wrenching the housekeeper's heart and filling her with dread that the master would lash out at her ongoing helplessness. Then the kitchen door swung open, and Avery Thompson stepped in, 25 years old, a waitress from a small Los Angeles cafe wearing faded skinny jeans, her hair hastily pinned up in a tousled bun, and sneakers that sparkled like Hollywood stars, entirely out of place in the opulent setting. Her smile beamed like the Californian sun at dawn, dispelling some of the chill as she greeted them naturally and requested a coffee in an enthusiastic tone that made the housekeeper arch an eyebrow in surprise. It was Avery's first day on the job serving meals, yet she didn't wait for instructions. She clasped her hands, studied the twins sitting alert like watchful owls, and sensed, through their eyes, the silent pain she herself had known in a childhood bereft of comfort. Without hesitation, Avery opened the refrigerator as if she owned the place, selecting fresh eggs, heavy cream, fine flour, and a box of ripe fruit, discreetly pushing anything expired to the back. Within minutes, the warm aroma of toast spread through the room, harmonizing with the cheerful rhythm of Taylor Swift playing on her phone and transforming the kitchen into a lively stage. Then came the unforgettable moment. She shouted with excitement, tossed a slice of toast high into the air, and danced with exaggerated strides, spinning like a Broadway performer, kitchen tongs at her hip jingling like maracas. Avery's heart thrummed with hope. She knew joy could pierce any hardened shell, and sure enough, the twins exchanged glances, and delighted giggles rang out the priceless sound the mansion had not heard for so long. The housekeeper nearly wept, her heart moved by this simple magic, whispering that none of the previous 5 waitstaff had ever achieved such a change. Upstairs, Julian Harrington, the West Coast's most stoic man, clad in a dark tailored suit, square glasses masking his grief, hair perfectly groomed, was buried in financial reports when the music and laughter drifted up, causing him to raise an eyebrow as inner conflict churned. Since his wife's death, his daughters had grown withdrawn and stubbornly refused every meal service, prompting him to fire 5 servers in 2 months. He blamed himself for letting his Silicon Valley startup consume his role as a father, the guilt slicing through him night after night. He pressed the intercom button, his voice firm as he inquired about the music, and the housekeeper's excited reply that the girls were eating thanks to the dancing magic waitress wielding toast made him frown. Donning his jacket, he descended the stairs expecting to find chaos to reprimand. Instead, he saw his daughters, sticky with syrup yet radiantly happy, and Avery spinning toast on her fingertip with unwavering confidence. Stirring something deep in his soul, he demanded discipline. But more than anything, he yearned for those fresh smiles. He studied her, anticipating a discreet professional, not someone who'd blast pop music and improvise a performance. Though her playful retort sent the girls into peals of laughter, he turned on his heel, yet cast one last, quietly moved glance at his children. After the meal, Avery cleared the table and discovered Lily's crayon drawing, the two sisters holding hands with her, beneath the scrawled words, "Magic Waitress." Cradling the paper, she murmured about having been enchanted by the twins, but inside she fretted true healing awaited upstairs, where a grade-eyed, stern-faced man with a frozen heart still nursed the smoldering pain of single parenthood. Have you ever wondered how deeply a simple smile can heal even the most enduring wounds?
Welcome to 30 Millionaire Stories, where success meets solitude, and every story heals a hidden wound. Subscribe and discover the heart behind the fortune.
On the second morning at the Harrington Mansion in Malibu, a fresh breeze swept through, carrying remnants of the giggles from the magic toast breakfast of the first day and dispelling the gloomy fog that had once cloaked the house like unending grief. Avery, wearing a pale blue apron she'd found in an old closet, declared it a day for another miraculous breakfast. She turned frying eggs into a dancing game set to cheerful music, prompting Lily and Nora, who had sat motionless like stone statues, not only to clap in excitement but also to let their eyes sparkle with innocent curiosity. It was hard to believe that only 3 days earlier they had shut themselves inside stubborn shells, their grief over their mother's tragic accident haunting every meal. But now, Avery's warmth shone through like Californian sunshine piercing morning mist, awakening a fragile hope in their young hearts. Mrs. Brooks, the housekeeper of 35 years, watched from the kitchen doorway with an unabashed smile, her heart stirred by this transformation. She had seen the mansion swallowed in oppressive silence, the laughter absent as on those misty Malibu dawns, but now neighbors whispered about the pleasant sounds drifting from the estate for the first time in many dark months. Avery paused her egg stirring to ask, curious, about the chatter, when Mrs. Brooks answered that it was the girls' delightful laughter. Avery squeezed her hand gently, feeling a profound connection, this small, subtle gesture proving that joy can heal invisible cracks, much like sunshine cutting through fog to warm every cold heart. At 10 o'clock, Julian Harrington came down to retrieve papers he'd left in the modern office, his mind still echoing with the upheaval of that first day. He was accustomed to strict order, yet the living room now resembled a scene from an American children's cartoon. Floor cushions had become sturdy forts, drapes transformed into enchanted secret caves. In the center, Avery animatedly narrated a story, her tone shifting with each character as she wielded a wooden spoon like a magic wand, sending the twins into peals of laughter as they rolled on the soft cushions. The sight enchanted him, though he should have resented the mess. Deep within, he recognized in her a bridge to the joyful world his daughters had abandoned since their mother died. A surge of guilt over his role as a father welled up, blaming himself for letting his Silicon Valley tech startup overshadow precious moments. Spotting him, Avery waved enthusiastically and invited him to join as the brave king, but he refused flatly, his tone firm to conceal his inner flutter. He intended only to collect his documents, but when Lily ran up to wrap her arms around his leg and Avery chimed in with a playful coax, "Come on, Daddy!" his chest tightened. He was overwhelmed by emotion at how long it had been since his daughters had come so close. Lily's laughter fading to a tentative smile caused fresh pangs of remorse. At noon, Avery turned lunch into a wild jungle adventure, each lettuce leaf a magical leaf, each carrot stick a super energy potion, convincing the twins to finish their plates, an achievement not even their mother had managed. Miguel, the family driver, peered through the window in admiration, his heart touched by Avery's ability to restore ordinary childhood joy. That afternoon, while the children napped peacefully, the staff gathered in the kitchen for the first time in months. Mrs. Brooks brewed fragrant coffee, Miguel brought homemade cookies from his wife, and even Laura, the shyest of the maids, joined in with a bashful smile. They whispered about the difference Avery had made. The house alive with laughter, Lily showing her first drawing since the accident, and Julian more present, though still reserved. Their hushed conversations carried a hopeful conviction that one humble woman might heal a fractured family. Late in the afternoon, Julian heard rustling out in the garden and looked up to see Avery leading a treasure hunt, colored stones scattered among the Malibu rose bushes, turning the yard into a vibrant playground. Deep inside, he was profoundly moved. He needed tangible results more than fleeting fun, yet fear of dashed hopes led him to grant her one more week on the condition she make no further unilateral changes, his eyes betraying the conflict within. What if that joy were only a fleeting illusion, and you missed the moment it became lasting reality? Dear viewers, take a moment to relax or sip some water, then stay tuned for the surprising events yet to unfold. Comment 1 if you enjoyed the story so far, so we know you're still with us. That Saturday at the Harrington Mansion in Malibu carried an unusual silence, like a thin veil over the hopeful spark Julian had revealed the afternoon before. When he'd given Avery a 1-week trial with eyes full of inner conflict. He awoke at dawn, no lively music or children's laughter echoed from the kitchen, and a vague anxiety surged through him, prompting him to slip on his robe and hurry downstairs, his heart beating faster than usual. He wondered whether that fragile joy would vanish like the California morning mist, or hold steadier than anything he dared imagine. Pushing open the living room door, he halted at the sight before him. Avery, dressed in simple pajamas, seated on the floor, reading a story to the twins perched at her sides. Her voice shifted fluidly between characters, creating a cozy scene with cushions arranged in a circle and a tray of freshly cut fruit at its center, a little corner of the ideal American family dream he had lost. Lily sprang up to wrap her arms around her father's leg, her childlike excitement bubbling over as she urged him to hear the tale of a princess who saved her kingdom with math and built castles out of numbers. That invitation felt like a soft punch to Julian's chest, reminding him how long it had been since his daughters had felt so close and the guilt over time lost since their mother's death washed over him, convincing him he must shed his icy reserve to grasp hope once more. Avery closed the book and gently reminded him it was Saturday. No rush, no schedule, no suit, causing him to glance down at his robe and feel adrift, like a busy Silicon Valley startup dad suddenly yanked back into family life. Placing her hands on her hips, she laid down the house rule. No work while these two beautiful girls need attention. Pajamas mandatory, fun above all else. Her tactful decree struck a chord with his deepest desires, though he bristled at admitting it. The twins tugged him up the stairs to kick off the Dad in PJs campaign, and half an hour later, Julian returned downstairs in gray sweatpants and a worn shirt clothes he hadn't worn in ages, making him feel awkward yet strangely at ease. Inside, his heart stirred at Avery's exclamation that he finally looked like a real dad with time on his hands. He defensively insisted he'd always been a real dad, but her gentle, persuasive reply melted that armor, making him realize the difference between merely existing and truly living alongside his children. They settled on the playroom floor. Nora constructed an anti-sadness robot from Lego, complete with a sadness-detecting antenna and tickling arms, while Lily painted with rapt concentration. Julian asked curious questions, marveling at their creativity, his heart swelling with joy mixed with self-reproach for missing so many moments like this. Lily then held up her drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands in front of the mansion, captioned, "My Happy Family." Julian swallowed hard, struck by his absence in her picture, and the innocent note, "Daddy is always working." Cut him like a knife, convincing him that the pain of single parenthood had pushed him out of that very portrait. But when Lily added him in pajamas, he accepted the drawing with tears held at bay, his eyes meeting Avery's with deep understanding, and something more, a subtle bond that made his heart tremble. On Monday, Avery planned to prepare an Italian dinner learned from his mother. Melting soft chicken pasta, seasoned salad, fresh pesto sauce to delight the children. Yet Julian remembered his own mother's imminent arrival. Eleanor Harrington, flying in from San Francisco. At 70, she was elegant and resolute, a staunch traditionalist who would inspect every detail to ensure her granddaughters were raised with proper care. He suggested a more traditional dish, but the children protested, and Avery crossed her arms to remind him ever so tactfully of the one-week trial, her tone gently convincing him to trust her method. That evening, Eleanor arrived in a gray suit, greeted her son with a kiss on the cheek and inquired after her granddaughters, then frowned when she heard of Avery coming from a local cafe. The dining table was ablaze with color and fragrant aromas. Yet Eleanor bit off only a small piece and asked about Avery's qualifications with a sneer when she learned that Avery held only an associate degree and a few nutrition certificates. Tension spiked as she snapped that Italian food was no place for polite children. They needed someone who would teach them proper manners. Avery inhaled deeply and, with respect, replied that the girls had once had severe eating issues, but now ate happily thanks to the new flavors. Eleanor then turned to Julian, demanding why he hadn't warned her, accusing him of trusting an underqualified stranger with such an odd menu. Julian's blood boiled. He stood up, cutting her off in anger to defend Avery, insisting that Eleanor was insulting the very person who had saved his daughters. He acknowledged that Avery had brought laughter and changed things he himself had never managed. Those words felt like a tremendous relief, and in that moment Julian realized that his feelings for her had grown deeper than he'd expected. Eleanor gaped at him, regarding her son as if he were a stranger, warning him not to seek her counsel again before storming out and leaving a suffocating silence behind. Julian sat trembling, apologized to Avery, and she softly thanked him. At that instant, something between them shifted, a warm affection weaving itself into hope that healing was no longer out of reach. Is this act of defense the first sign of love blossoming, or merely a fleeting moment you'll regret overlooking? Dear viewers, stay tuned for the next episode that will leave you amazed. Take a second to like and subscribe, and leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always exciting to see someone join us from all around the world. 3 days after the tense dinner with Eleanor, life at the Harrington mansion in Malibu appeared cheerful once more. But the deeper bond between Julian and Avery, born in that moment of apology, still ran beneath the surface like an undercurrent, convincing him that healing hope need not be a temporary illusion but could endure, like Malibu's golden mornings piercing the mist to bring genuine warmth. Julian felt more at ease after his quarrel with his mother. Inwardly, he was gentler as he acknowledged Avery's role in his daughter's transformation, though the guilt of having let others make decisions for so long still smoldered, making him wonder if he dared to open his heart fully before everything shattered. Under Avery's tender care, the twins flourished, and their laughter echoed like a reminder that love can heal invisible wounds. Then, on a radiant Wednesday morning, Lily grabbed Avery's hand in the kitchen with a mysterious look and whispered about a secret spot, a childlike invitation that made Avery kneel, her heart melting at their trust and hinting that family secrets might hold the key to deeper understanding of their hidden pain. The girls led Avery into the garden, past blooming Malibu rose bushes and a fountain sparkling in the sun, to the shade of a great tree where outward serenity concealed painful memories. Nora pointed at the tree's base, and Lily began to dig into the soft earth with her tiny hands, unearthing a bright red metal box like a precious treasure. They handled it with solemn reverence, prompting Avery to sit on the grass. Moved by the intimacy they shared, she was someone special in their eyes. A warm conviction that her role extended beyond serving meals to bridging emotional gaps. Inside the box lay sacred mementos, photographs of a beautiful brown-haired woman, their mother, her radiant smile, capturing moments of play with the girls or embracing Julian at social events. Each picture whispered of a once happy family before the tragic accident. Nora held up a photo with reverence, and Lily unfolded a crumpled letter, its childish scrawl praising Avery's pasta and hoping their mother would like her because she was as fun as Mom. Begging her to return from heaven to meet them, words that squeezed Avery's chest, her own childhood sorrow mirrored in their innocence, proving that children need gentle truths to heal. Nora's letter continued. Their father was happier because Avery made him laugh, and when Mother returned, they would all be friends. The box also contained colorful drawings for their mother, dried flowers picked from the garden, and a recent photo of Avery beside an old family snapshot affirming that Avery had woven herself into their world. Lily explained they came each week to tell their mother stories and write to her for her to read when she came back, a naive hope that brought tears to Avery's eyes. She inhaled deeply and gently explained that mothers couldn't return because heaven is a journey with no way back, but that their mother remained with them in love and memories. Through no one's fault, a tactful reassurance that pain can be softened when faced. Lily wept, clutching the photo and refusing to believe Mother was only visiting angels, insisting she would come back one day, while Nora, tears in her voice, asked if Lily would go too. Avery comforted them, promising she would stay, but Julian's cold voice cut through sharply as he appeared nearby, his face tense with anger, inner turmoil boiling at her intrusion into the grief he had guarded so carefully. He accused her of bringing up their mother's death, his tone laced with anguished fear children needed love and protection, not premature awareness that might traumatize them. And she knew nothing of losing someone so dear. Avery fell silent, feeling that pain, realizing he was shielding himself. From that moment, he limited her role strictly to serving food and playtime, then walked away, leaving Avery alone with worry. A heavy atmosphere followed the argument. Julian avoided her, and Avery kept things normal for the children's sake, but on Friday afternoon everything came crashing down. He returned home early, face drawn, sent the girls to the playroom and slammed the door to discuss boundaries, citing a doctor's opinion that her methods were harmful. Avery, her blood boiling, countered that he was afraid to face his own pain, asking how he dared judge her parenting when he rarely asked his daughters about their feelings or ran from reminders of their mother. He slammed his fist on the table, then stormed upstairs. Panic seized them when they reached the children's room. They found it empty and the window wide open. The girls had fled, terrified of being blamed for another fight. Avery screamed, fearing they had hidden somewhere safe, and rushed to the old dog kennel at the garden's end. Their soft sobs echoed from the abandoned wooden structure. Avery knelt and called them by name. Two little heads peered out, tear-streaked. She opened her arms, forgiving them and singing a sweet Italian lullaby of protective love. The girls calmed and nestled close. Julian arrived silently, helped bathe them and dress them in pajamas, watching Avery's patience with deep emotion. That evening, he knocked on her door and confessed he didn't know how to be a father after his wife's death, admitting he'd feared facing his own grief, and asked her to teach him a profound admission born of shared pain. Can you imagine how a simple lullaby can unlock a frozen heart, and would you regret missing how it led to even greater transformations ahead? Saturday morning at the Harrington Mansion in Malibu carried the afterglow of Julian's confession the night before his plea to learn how to be a father, echoing like an Italian lullaby, still unlocking a frozen heart, suggesting that such lessons could lead to an even deeper transformation. Convincing anyone that love budding through shared pain need not be a distant dream, but can become a warm reality for every American family grappling with loss. Julian appeared in the kitchen before Avery, clad in pajamas for the first time in ages, fumbling with a coffee maker in an awkward display of effort to change his heart, stirred when she looked up in surprise and asked if he needed help, her gentle touch sparking a subtle flame between them amid the embarrassment. reminding him that fatherhood could be more joyful if he shed his Silicon Valley startup armor. The children cheered at seeing their dad up early, and the morning became a first true collaboration. They helped stir the batter with eager smiles, and Julian learned to notice each child's tastes, a process, persuading him that truly being present could heal the void left by their mother's passing, fueling hope for all single fathers burdened by similar regrets. That afternoon, Julian suggested they cook dinner together, his voice softer than usual, his inner conflict stirred by the wish that these intimate moments might fill the emptiness. Avery agreed on an easy lasagna, and their hands brushed more than once passing warm sauce, gently adjusting knife cuts, sending both hearts fluttering in a delicate connection that proved feelings were blossoming through everyday gestures, much like Malibu afternoons, bringing fresh promise after the rain. The children whispered, "Is Daddy handsome?" making Julian blush, and after dinner they pressed him, "Do you like Aunt Avery?" The children's innocent question touching his deepest fears, even as it strengthened the belief that their family could become whole again. On Monday, a steady Malibu drizzle prompted the children to request an umbrella parade, a tradition with their mother that made Julian hesitate, his heart stirred by painful memories. But he agreed to prove change was possible, convinced that facing the past could bring new joy. In the garden, under the gentle rain, the children paraded their colorful umbrellas, and Julian tried to twirl one gracefully but slipped on the wet grass. Pulling Avery down with him, they landed inches apart, the rain falling like a romantic whisper, and an unexpected kiss, soft at first, then deep with passion, erupted, flooding both with pent-up emotion, a moment proving that love could heal the fear of loss. The children squealed, "Daddy, are you hurt?" Julian sprang back, his voice chilly to mask panic. "I just slipped." But inside, terror surged at the thought of another loss. Later in his office, he called her by mistake Waitress instead of my partner, insisting on strict professionalism, a remark that cut like a knife and deeply wounded Avery, proving that their feelings were dangerous, yet wonderful. 3 days later, Julian was formally polite, but distant. The children asked why he didn't eat with them, and Avery, voice trembling, announced her resignation, saying she would leave on Friday. Julian nodded in understanding, but his heart ached, regret intensifying for anyone who ever let love slip away out of fear. Avery left a farewell letter for the children explaining that none of this was their fault, but that grown-up decisions were hard. The girls awoke to find the note and burst into tears. Julian raced upstairs, witnessing their pain, realizing he loved Avery and that his fear of ruining something precious after his wife's death was tearing him apart. 1 week later, the mansion was again cloaked in gloom. The new perfect waitress failed to charm the girls, laughter nowhere to be found. At the Beverly Hills dance showcase, Nora panicked and called for Avery from the stage. Julian, his voice desperate, urged for help. Avery dashed in, offered gentle encouragement, and guided the child to a radiant smile. Backstage, he thanked her, confessed that both he and his daughters needed her, and admitted the house felt empty without her, words that touched Avery's heart, convincing her that hope still lived. Will that confession be enough to heal the old wounds? Or will you regret missing how it leads to true happiness beyond? That evening, Avery came back for dinner. The echo of Julian's plea, his confession that he needed her, still reverberating from the schoolyard like a promise of healing, suggesting that such hope could lead to true happiness, convincing every American family wrestling with loss that unexpected love can change everything. The children cheered in delight when they saw her, and Avery's heart swelled at the sight of their drawing titled, "Our Family Forever." The words asking if she would be their mother, a sweet, innocent gesture that touched her deepest longing for a home. Meanwhile, Julian fumbled about in the kitchen, flour clinging to his hair and sauce scorching at the bottom of the pan. his awkward efforts to make up for his earlier fear of pushing Avery away. He needed her gentle guidance to finish the meal, heightening the sense that everyday moments can heal invisible wounds, much like a Malibu sunset piercing through rain clouds. The dinner unfolded under Julian's anxious gaze as he rehearsed his words in his head, his voice trembling when the children pressed him directly, but inside his resolve surged. He knelt down right there in the living room, confessed his deep love for her, that she had made their house a true home, brought back his smile after the pain of losing his wife, and begged her forgiveness for the fear that had driven her away. His words, subtly persuasive, proved that forgiveness is the key to new happiness, resonating with every single father in America plagued by similar regrets. Tears streamed down Avery's face as she replied that she forgave him because love heals all wounds, and that she loved him and the children at that moment. The kids burst into cheers, and the family's hearts swelled with fragile yet real joy, convincing them that fractured families can be whole again through sincere love. Julian slipped his grandmother's ring onto Avery's finger with trembling hands, a symbol of their revived American family tradition through forgiveness, and 2 weeks later, a pajama wedding in the Malibu garden unfolded like a vivid dream. Avery wore a simple floral dress adorned with fresh blooms from the yard. An Italian lullaby drifted softly from a guitar, and guests sat comfortably on the lush green grass under the California evening sun, creating a warm atmosphere that proved happiness can be simple yet profound, inspiring hope in anyone seeking healing after loss. Their vows emphasize forgiveness and restoration, pledging to care not only for each other but also for the twin girls, while Eleanor Harrington, now accepting that warm smile, whispered her forgiveness for old prejudices. A subtle reminder that time and love can soften the hardest hearts, proving that family reconciliation is possible even in America's busiest lives. The post-ceremony celebration reached its joyful peak. Pillows flew through the grass, laughter rolled like Malibu waves, and everyone shared homemade brigadeiros and everyday stories, crafting the ideal American family scene longed for after loss. Suddenly, Nora piped up, "This is the first time we've all laughed together," in her wide-eyed childlike wonder. Avery hugged her tightly, promising it would not be the last time, her warm assurance convincing everyone that this home would forever resound with laughter, affirming that love can fill even the deepest void. Julian kissed Avery gently, whispering eternal promises of forgiveness and love. In that moment, he shed all burdens of the past, transforming the mansion into a true home where love blossoms from care, grows through the courage to open one's heart, and endures by the promise never to part, convincing all that genuine happiness awaits those who dare to forgive. What do you think of Avery and Julian's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, how would you rate it? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to follow all our inspirational stories. And be sure to check out more heartwarming tales right here